Welcome everybody to this session of Q&A on channeling of the first class that we have already worked on. And also we are doing the heroic assessment. The connection of why we're doing this came recently to make click, because for me it makes sense and I live it. Recently I saw the maps of the Great Awakening and someone highlighted, hey, this channeling and Hero's Way is very, very close. And yes, this is why we're doing it. The capacity of being connected with our inner guidance is like having this compass, this alignment, this capacity of keeping on our path. And this path is heroic when we face our personal legend, as Coelho would say in The Alchemist. Like we are on the track of our personal legend. We are being the best we can be. And that's a heroic way of living. So in the Hero's Way, we worked on the different steps and how to read the different situations. And in the step 4, especially, is the step of the oracle. The step of the oracle is when I go and start having a conversation with the universe. This conversation that we were talking in the first class, we are like having an interaction with the universe, reflecting me back if what I am stating, what I am informing my reality is having a feedback. So this way we can probe. It's like, you know, we are sensing and probing the reality to know where we are standing. So in a sense, these are tools of placing ourselves where we are in life, where we are situated. And that's the first awareness we work in spiritual fitness, location awareness. Spiritual fitness, the first thing that go basic is where I am. It's like where I am in places. Where's my consciousness? It's like I am outside of my body. Am I inside my body? And with this fitness, then we will be able to travel dimensions, because dimensions has the vector of space. One of the vectors to define a dimension is the space. So we need awareness location. Make sense? It's like very basic, like memory even works like that. And that's why the Akashic records, we imagine them as a library, because it's a place that we need to order information. Make sense? Why we need to have this awareness of placing stuff and where we are, because it's not only that we instinctively work and remembering where food was, where water was, where our tools in our house are, or where our house is. We use this awareness to organize and order things. And that's what we will see in the class of rituals. The class of rituals help us to go inside of how we are framing the perception of reality we have. So we can order it, because we are all the time looking for this ordering of the reality, to know where I am placed, with what I can do, what are my possibilities, what could be putting me in risk, what can be giving me the expansion opportunities. So that to nuance a little bit our internal compass. Okay, now we are in. So happy to see many of you from the lineage, from many beautiful places, New York, Canada, Europe. Okay, We can start this first half an hour with the Q&As on channeling. There's, I think, the option of raising up the hand, just for a matter of keeping the recording nice. I will unmute the ones who have the question and raise the hand. I will scan who has a question. Yeah, where we are coming from. Here we have New York, Germany, Poland, Ireland, UK, Switzerland, Canada. Hi, Ashley. Cuba, yeah. Awesome. New York, awesome. Okay. Questions? You can raise their hand on the channeling. So nice there, everybody writing. Or you can write it if it's more comfortable. Oh, Rosa Maria, so nice to see you. Blessings for you. Lebanon, peace to Lebanon. Syrians, great, great people. Yes, here we are, Maria. I look for you. Here we are. Wow, this is there. Hi.
Hi.
Awesome. Hey, hi.
Hi. So my question is, when channeling, how can you discern between the ego giving the message or your spirit giving the message?
Awesome. Love it. Love it. That's perfect. That's on discernment. That question of discernment, first, we have the intent and we can recognize that there's an ego probably trying to put information in me. So the first thing to not be treated is acknowledging that there can be an ego putting it there. So that's why we put in the initiatic approach the detecting our ego all the time, to try to empty ourselves first from the ego. So in the initiatic approach, we work first, before entering to channeling, clearing ourselves, emptying ourselves from influences that can be operating. From that, when you start having that practice of, okay, I am opening the ritual of channeling. It's not suddenly that it came. You say, okay, everything that is not me, everything that is even a lower part of me or coming from my lower self, I intended to go. So you will raise automatically the vibration by having that intent. And then there's another trick that is not a trick. It's there's another awareness or device that we have to consider, that using the ego in our favor. The problem is the lower case ego, to not be guided by that, or an external ego, or the collective ego trying to imprint image thoughts on us. Because there are subconscious, if we are not conscious, or is subconscious, the broadcastings of that ego, and we don't clear them, it's very likely that it's the ego. That to understand it on the awareness side and the initiative of how I am entering to the channeling. Because it's like sometimes we believe that we are having a great idea, you know, it's like, I'm having this great idea, but then we realize that we have watching publicities that people say that write your book, people around you, or you were overhearing a conversation of write your book, then another triggers it and you believe, I'm getting the message that I have to write my book, you know? It's like, it's a cultivation of the subconscious. That can be an example. in this case, we can first clear ourselves from what cannot be ours. You can do a clearing of influences. Okay, if it's not mine, it will go away, and I am willing to detach from it. I am willing to let go of, even if it's the best idea of the world that will save the world, I am willing to detach from it. And that's when you start taking away power of the ego. It cannot possess you, because we are clearing from a possession that starts moving us. And we believe that, yes, we are channeling, but it's like we are getting a lower signal. So the thinking here is raising the vibration to our higher self, that in a sense is an ego, but is the personality of our soul. Even in higher realms, there is ego. That's a thing that sometimes is not well understood, but it's not the ego that is villainized. We usually have a bad fame of ego. It's like, okay, what is my higher self, my best self, my most truthful and loving self? And that's how you choose your vibration, and you choose the higher ego to work to be a decoder. So it's kind of stepping and choosing into the higher self you can attain at that moment. So it's a matter of clearing and putting your election, so then you can discern. Then when you embody that vibration, you can feel it, if it's not, or if it's you or not, if it's truth or not, because you are having something to measure. If you're trying discernment, you have to have something to measure with. Make sense? When we are like discernment, if it's true or not, it's like according to which state or vibration, because there are different levels of truth or degrees of truth that we can conform with partial truths, and it's like, okay, this is true for me, and you take it, you know. So we make a strong line, so we can discern according to this line. Is this the most truthful? Is this the most loving? Is this what I need now? The most correspondent for information for me now? Even if it's the book, I have to write the book. Sometimes I get super big ideas like that. It's like, I have to, yes, let's say, invent the next social media app. But I've been maybe tuning into wanting to do something important. That's why in the next class of rituals, we work on discovering what our ego wants us to do, how the ego uses our needs. And these needs, when we know them, we know our satisfaction terms, we know what is our higher selves, that we are open and available to embody that vibration. When we embody that vibration, it's easier the discernment, because we know ourselves more. We know our higher self more. That's the long answer. The short answer, clear from everything that is not yours, just with intention. Ask with strong intent, and feel it in your body. Feel it in your body if it's truth or not. The best discernment is not in here or looking up. The problem is when we are looking up, and it's like, feel it in your body, because your body will know. There's like not only intelligence, it's also intuition and instinct that we have to have helping us for discernment. Okay, that was the short one. Take whatever the short or the long serves. I think it's you're okay, Marije? I don't see you, Marije. There you are. Okay, I don't see your camera. But that's the answer for that, the short and the long. Any other question? I saw a thing of Christian here. You can raise your hand for another question on channeling. When I'm talking with somebody, I get some message for this person. Is this still my ego? You can have the awareness of not putting out, because when you have messages for the person, and this is also part of correspondence. We have a code of correspondence, checking if it corresponds for you to give them, because the ego would like to interfere in the reality of the other. That is very likely that if you cannot contain yourself, when you have a message that is coming from wherever, that you want to tell it. There's information all around. Just by being in presence of someone, by reading their field, you can have already psychic readings. We are all intuitive and psychic, because we can read the fields of information. It's just being an openness to the sensitivity of the information there is in the air. So the problem is that most people do not have the exercise of their channel to know if it's correspondent to say it, or if we are trespassing, for example, the will of the other. We can, if we have the authority if we are being granted the authority to talk about that person, even that we believe that is totally true, and we are like receiving it, even in the channelings that people are open, receiving, and with the permission, there are things and informations that I have to ask, do I tell this or not? Even that they are open, and sometimes it's not, because they cannot process it. The information just needs to be seen. Remember that when you know something, before outputting it, you have to process it. And that's the service of the channel. It's not just downloading information and putting it out, it's processing it too. That's why in all the Akashic Records openings, the information that comes, sometimes I have to resolve it in myself with emotional intelligence, with all the awareness devices that we build up. And it's already a healing, because information is alive and it heals. And you change maybe your behavior and not just put out information. Make sense? I will see Christian that he has that. Yes, there we are. So yes, the capacity of also containing in ourselves and processing it, it's what makes us a better channeler, because we are in control of what comes in and out and our process. It's not that I feel this and I have to put it out because it just came. No. There's this, that's why we work a lot on framework. To be reliable. It's not just something takes over me. It's the same at the beginning. Something takes over me, the information is too much and I contain it, I have to take it out. No, I can contain and I can dosify so it becomes a medicine. Remember, medicine, or the antidotes, is the right dose of the venom. That's how the antidote it makes. We just give a little bit of what they can take, and the person makes their own healing with what we gave them to activate their immune system. That's more on healing. Okay. Let's go with the next question. Anyone who wants to lift the hand physically or in the app, we can take the question. We scan. Hello, Ikram. Taking a thing. Okay. You can write it as well. Have these questions on channeling now. Beautifully said. Well, you can. Thank you, Sashka. Yes, Annie. Annie Burn has to unmute. There we are. I'll hear you.
All right, let's pursue what you were talking about, processing the information or whatever comes in. What about for those who and when you already you feel there's something, you feel you need to transmit something, and you ask permission to the other person, what do you think that it is for them? But in the meantime, I don't necessarily have an idea what I will say. I just feel the impulse. How can I process?
Yes. It's a very good practice to express what is going through you. Like, maybe you don't know what, but you ask the permission. It's like, hey, I feel a strong calling now to share some message with you. May I? And if they open, okay, this comes through, and it can come just flowing like that. Just like sometimes it's the most healthy thing. Even when we train on channeling, it's like not interfering with information, trying to assess it, and too much judgment, you know. It's like nice, that flow. What I add to that is that that thing that wants kind of to filter the information coming through has to be our awareness as contemplating, as we can contemplate what is coming through. So we are also an active observer. No, we are not interfering with the information, but we are like, it's coming through, coming to the person, and we can put ourselves aside, but ourselves are learning from what's coming through. And if it's necessary, it can come in, you know. It's like, okay, so it appears like split personality. That's why the people believe we are crazy, because it's like there's one other person coming through, and then your personality on the side. So we have to have that management of kind of, it's like dealing with schizophrenia because of the many voices, and also knowing that our voice and our consciousness is the authority over our body. And that's what most people with mental illnesses don't get, that they have given their authority and their consciousness to another voice or the impulse. So it's like the framework of records has helped me a lot with that, because before it was more mediumship. It was, okay, there's the son of this woman that is coming through me, and I start feeling things as her as if she's my mother, and yes, I want to live close to her, and it's like it's taking over the decisions of my body and my life. That's all. And it's different of, okay, here I am open to receive. It can come through. I won't interfere. I will observe and learn from everything that's coming through. And if there's something that I don't want in or I don't want out, I still have the power. And I can learn from everything that is coming through me, because there's a resonance, because I tune my body for that kind of messages or guidance or masters to come through. Make sense? Yes, yes. Yes. Open here.
Thank you again. I noticed that I leave usually the energy flowing, but what happens, and maybe this is where I need to observe more, is I have a tendency to forget what I have said. So people will come back, remember you say that, is like, wow, it feels like, okay, it wasn't me, but I didn't. So maybe I need to practice how to interact discreetly more into this exchange, and maybe be able to remember more what happened. So the sense you just said, you talked about control. So I guess that's what has been missing.
Well, that's a good sign. A good sign that it comes through. You forget because, in a sense, you put yourself out of there. That happens a lot to my master of records. That, well, he makes like hundreds of readings per year, so he usually forgets. But I believe that it's nice that we talk in the first time. We talk in one of the classes of the memory. If the memory, when we can be observer and feel, but not put our feeling into the equation, the apparatus to generate memories, like to kind of, in a way, multiply or harvest that soul experiences. When I open records or analyze functions, that is, I cannot forget them because of the emotional imprint it makes on me. So I cannot forget it. So I kind of feel what is being said. And usually when there's a being, it has a feeling of, you can feel the being. So you can maybe not remember exactly what has been said, but you can have a tone and some main anchor memory. That's why I'm able to after a channeling, I can remember some big parts and the tone that was said. Is it useful? Okay. Another question on channeling. Here I scan. Yes, testa. It's alphabetically this. Okay. Unmute.
Yeah, hi. So I do the channeling as well. I've been doing trance channeling for 2 years and mediumship for 4. When I'm channeling something, I don't remember pretty much anything I'm saying because I leave the building. I'm not actually in my head. I'm almost in like a subconscious state. So the only thing I can really remember is the power of the energy and possibly some of the emotion. But I don't necessarily remember much of what I've said at all. I have to actually record it to play it back. So I don't understand how I'm supposed to be able to attach my mind to that, to control it when it's not even coming from me. It's literally just coming through me. So how on earth would you do that? Because the energy is not mine. I'm just channeling it through me. And then if it's being directed for somebody else, if I'm doing a reading for them, yeah, like whatever is coming through me is speaking to them through me. I'm not speaking to them. So I don't have any way to observe that in a mental conscious state at all until afterwards when I hear back what I said, or I've recorded it and I listen to the recording.
Yes. And that's perfect. That's perfect because you're using the recordings, like you can anchor relying on some physical, or like even we have the great gift of having technology to record ourselves. So that's a great device you're using to be able to totally detach from you trying to use the memory there. That's the awareness device that I am talking about, of putting yourself aside and being observer, is whenever we don't have whenever we don't have something to record, I like a lot to write it, for example.
Mm-hmm.
When I let my free flow writing of what's coming, I like that I can let myself go more, because I know I can access. So I don't have to be like, I have to remember this and this, and oh, this is important, because that's already takes takes energy from the flow.
Mm-hmm.
So it's great what you're doing, and recording it, having some ways of anchoring it to bring it back, and you know, like trust leaving the place, or like leaving the consciousness, is also part of the preset, you know, preparations for the channel.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I heard the high vibration of what you channeled the other day. Those beings was very funny, and I felt how funny those beings may have felt inside. So great job.
Yeah. That was probably the one thing I remember, was the feeling of the energy. It was very joyful. I don't remember the tones I said at all, so I had to listen to the recordings I made, because I didn't remember anything afterwards. I just remember channeling energy, and I felt powerful energy going through me, and I felt like I was almost like, you know, way up in the sky, like not actually on the earth when I was doing it. So I really had to ground heavily afterwards. But listening to the channeling is interesting, because I don't remember half of what I actually channeled. So listening to it's amazing, because I'm like, wow, okay, that's interesting. There's a lot in that.
Yes. Well, now in the rituals class, I was just doing that of bringing the channelings, or what we have received or went to look for, to a useful, like to be functional. As this has been like what this component that I added has been life-changing. That's why this ritual class that is coming is a master class. I will bring it in a sense of an example of my life. I smoked marijuana many years, and the excuse of the ritual, because in the moment was like, let's do a joint, you know, like the lack of respect for the plant. It's like, let's do a joint because it's just like a social connection. But then when I had this awareness on shamanic training, the cellular memory, it's like, okay, I will have more respect. Let's do a flower ceremony. Oh, more sophistication. Yes. Whatever. And you can like trick yourself with that sophistication and marketing to trick yourself. But then what was real, that I could make a knot with the realm of reality, is how is this serving me? How functional is this? So I said, okay, let's do it. Now I will enter this differently by recording every session. If it's so brilliant and I'm going to be having so much insights and creativity when I'm smoke, let's see what comes. I will record myself. So then you use the devices of recording yourself with the other part of yourself, the lucid yourself, so you can assess really, and you can take away the kind of the whatever marketing, spiritual marketing, or whatever that can happen. It's like you see if it's powerful in reality too. The realm where we see power is here too. So I started recording, and then I realized it was like, okay, I'm making noise, you know, and at the moment I'm feeling that is the best idea of the world. And it's like, I listen to conversations with others, everything that I was talking about, communication and emotional intelligence, is not there, it's not inhabited. So the imaginary is taking over me, instead of recording and saying, okay, this was brilliant, you know. And then I have an indicator of, you know, like you have some assessment to check it with yourself, and how it's serving me. And that's why I stopped smoking. Because it was like, okay, I'm tricking myself. And it's like, it was becoming dysfunctional. So yeah, that's what's coming in the ritual masterclass, that I've been living it like personally, and that's I'm very happy to share. Okay, see, thank you, Tessa. Thank you, Tessa. Here I see the Ikram. Let's take this last question on. Yes, last question on channeling, and we go to heroic assessment.
So it's I asked the question, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Good. I think the part I question is, I feel like I get a lot of messages like most of the time, right? Like I just like but I don't know who is speaking to me, and I don't know if this is just I tell myself that's my intuition, so I'm not sure if this is like Ikram's higher self. Am I channeling somebody? Like, what is going on here? And I also, honestly, I don't care to know. And I don't know if it's important to know and understand, you know, that's why I'm asking the question, because I'm like, okay, it feels like this information is right and serving me. So I'm happy with it. So I go and I flow at my day with it. But I don't know if it's important to know who I'm channeling and what's going on. And, you know, it happens automatic for me more than, oh, I'm channeling. And it happens not very automatic. I feel more like decision based if I'm like reading an oracle card. So then I'm channeling Isis, for example, and this is where like I know who I'm talking to in some capacity. So yeah, so I just wanted to know if it's important to know, and then how to know if it is important or it's okay to keep going the way I'm going, you know?
Okay. Well, you brought up the oracle card helps you to know who you are talking to, because you're talking in a language, in a sense, right? You're like, okay, we have these symbols or this language that is the signs of the card and their meaning to talk through. So you know who you're talking to because of the language framework. That's a good indicator. It's like, okay, before to make it as a conscious ritual or conscious conversation, let's say, you choose the frame where it's going to happen, that conversation.
Yeah.
So that already makes a spectrum of who you can be talking to.
Yeah, because my oracle card
comes.
Is specific to Isis, but when it is tarot card, for example, I don't know who I'm talking to with tarot, because who's talking to me, I don't know. If that makes sense.
Well,
you know?
yes, totally makes sense. And well, that's a matter of two things. What we have been talking of, there are the voices of the collective ego that the Toltecs call the mitote. That's the chit chatter around, that is like, you know, at this moment, there are signaling through our bodies. You just have to change the dial, and there's another voice and another sound. You know, it's like when depending on which voice we want to tune, but there are voices all the time. The problem is believing that the radio speaker is talking directly to us. You know, there's these people that are to the TV. It's like, yes, he's talking to me, you know? It's a phenomenon. Like, he's talking to me because of the resonance, because we are dialed in that resonance. So it's nice what you do of de-addressing everything that you have asked. Taking the authority, or like even the volume out of everything that you have not asked. And then that's on the mitote part. And the other part is the framework. When I could control this, it was the Akashic Record initiation, because otherwise, like, the plant is talking to me, and the plant, and it's like, I've got to over there, and it was like, you know, I was moved by all these beings that they have access to talk to me, but I kind of was, you know, pulled by them. So what changed my framework was Akashic Records. I said, okay, when I open, I check the inbox messages. And the ones that are for me and under these terms that I tuned in. So it's like you already shaped the framework very well for it to come, certain information. And also, as you were talking, the tarot cards are tuned with, I don't know, so many people since Egypt are using that archaic languages, and it's loaded by something. It's like a mantra. It's loaded by many people that kind of enter in that pool. So by the lineages, you know, like there are free Akashic prayers there, but also the people and the beings that can access them, we don't know who they are. So that's why the being endorsed and guarded into this framework has helped me to find more on what I am getting. Serves useful?
Yeah. So what I'm hearing is just make it more a practicing and entering into something. Right?
It's like a conscious entrance.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like first reducing the volume and a conscious entrance to what you want. That's why you are choosing. So since now we are starting the heroic assessment, what you're telling me is part of this quadrant of being aware if I am inside my path, my real path, if I am in, how I start things. So it's, otherwise it's like Inception. Inception is a great movie of understanding this plane. Do you realize how you arrived here? If you cannot trace back how you enter this situation, you are in someone else's dream. That's why we practice a lot initiatic, the initio of things to be in our path, our real path. So we have to, I don't want to push have to. It's like I invite, I open the door to ingresar, to entrance to our real path. Be aware of if we are in our path, we are in our, I would say, if we are in our sacredness, honoring the conversation with what we are doing, it cannot just happen as unaware, because when we just lower a little bit the guard, the ego can leak in, and that's why it's like an exercise of awareness. It seems like very like, oh, paranoid of I cannot lower the guard. That can seem a little bit. That's like even a play. It's like a soul play. It's like, thank you for showing me where I am breachable and showing me where I am because of this.
Very powerful.
Okay.
Thank you.
Here
Thank
I
you.
will. Yeah, pleasure, Ikram. How do I handle messages? Let's do this last question that is written, and we go to the heroic assessment here. Can you talk about different ways you can receive information? For example, you can receive a message orders, impressions, okay, even frequencies. I will address that fast. There are sentences. They're called clairvoyance. Is, for example, when you close your eyes and see things, or even when you see auras and things with eyes open. Clairvoyance, videncia. Clairaudience is when you can hear voices, that you can suddenly listen or songs or voices of people around. Clarisentience is when you feel sensations, hot, the movement of your body that wants to go somewhere. You feel like an emotion of a lot of sadness when you approach to certain places. That's more clarisentience. And claricognition is cognos, that is like suddenly some thoughts are emerging. It's like insight that you just know. It's like an inner knowing. It's like, this is no, and it's like feels and clicks like truth. So it's like another way of sentience, claricognition. Those are some ways to receive messages. And a mix of those can happen as well, of course. We just train them and open up to them. It's like starting listening with a strong intention and attitude that my spirit is in charge of receiving the messages. The listening is super important. That's why the exercise of class 1 is the listening, and that's why step 0 is clearing our consciousness to exercise the initiatic listening. It's like training both hemispheres of my brain. It's not only what I am saying, what is being told to me is the mix of listening. I don't know. Yes, it's the mix of listening and talking at the same time. So that's when we do the feedback loop between our hemispheres. So it's like the spark. So it's not only an intention of listening, it's like a fitness of wider listening. Not listening with the ears only, like listening with our awareness. And that is what helps us to receive and decode better the messages. Now in the practices of the assessments, that's very important that we have that in awareness, because any case that exposes, any of you that puts out the case, when you listen to yourself, we develop that, or even your partners of class listen to yourself, to you, they can decode as well. And it's like, this is an exercise of practicing the initiatic listening. That's mainly why we do it open. And last question, how do you handle messages that are in conflict with welfare of your family? That's personal work. That's more Hero's way, because those are things that you will have to really have work your virtues and be committed to your path to face. If they are like compromising your family, for example, I know that in a case that my fathers cannot be up to certain tests, that this humanity, I have to let them go. It can come from my intent of saving them. That can interrupt with my path and their path. Because if they have not done the work to pass the test, I can do the work or save them because they're out of my way. So it makes you go down and not pass because that is a test itself. Usually the heroes have to let go of their place, their home, their parents, their beliefs, their culture. It's part of the detachment to become something else. And it's like kind of hard, but it's part of the path. It's part of the path. Sometimes it's like, okay, I cannot save them. You have to let them go. Or sometimes it's like you receive something that is going to happen to them, but it's like you can ask what is the best thing you can do, not change the other. Not save them from what is a configuration that they are creating. because that's what their soul needs, and we have no authority on the universe of the other. And if we step over that other universe magic, and that is a backfire. So yes, it of course is of the most difficult the things for the family, but yes, it's also last test. It's like when Star Wars, when he realized that he's fighting against his father, you know, and he has to kill his father. So it's like that's even psychologically important, not physically. I don't mean like kill them or let them. Of course, it's like naturally, of course, work on that, but knowing that the detachment and symbolically death of our family help us to bigger us and also projecting on them and lets them grow too. That's deeper psychology. That's has to do with that. And let go of everything you hold dear. What if they need you? Well, we're in a heroic assessment directly here. You always have to check what is in you, really in you, in your, what you can do from your universe, and not get moved. Otherwise, in the quadrant of getting moved by need, by the need of others, because you need to be useful for others, use people that need you, and you will start generating and attracting neediness and dependency. So that's why when you don't let them grow as well. So yes, that's a plot of an ego. Just having an awareness of, if you're trying to play the savior, the ego would love to be the savior and always label as others in dependency or need. That it's like a plot of the ego, the savior, the victim, and the judgment, because we think, oh, you should have done. It's like we start punishing with the judgment. Those are the three roles of the ego wants us to keep us. Yes, and as father of your young child is, in this case, again, checking what you can do, like being totally honest with yourself of, what can I do? You're in peace with yourself that you did your best, and up to the point that you can, there's a limit that you will find that is out of your control. And then from that point on, with acceptance, you know, and trusting that their soul knows, trusting that the universe will help, trusting the situation and the guides and everything that is around your child, that is an independent being, will assist it. It's also a matter of trusting the universe, trusting the soul's path of yours and of your son. So that's a very difficult test, and of the most difficult for sure. And it's great that you ask it, because many persons lose themselves for the other. And it's a subtle balance there. It's like, okay, I will do all my best. I will be really truthful with myself. I do all my best up to the point that I can. And yes, and of course, we're willing to die for our children. Like, of course, they are sacred. They are like the life that it will continue. So if that's the path as well, and it's inside of you that you are willing to die for a child, perfect. That's your path, and that's your heroic way. So just the loyalty of yourself. If you really feel like giving it all for your child, excellent. Give it up to the point that you can give it. That you will see that there's a point that is out of your control. Otherwise, it's that you're trying to control the reality of the other. And if it's not, it's like, okay, that's what they are choosing. That's what this is out of my reach. I will satellite around them and help in any way I can. And that's, you will find some dynamics there in the energy decodification that we worked in the Heroes Map that will help you do the energy management, that you can change the dense situations from the subtle. If you want, I think I sent everyone the email with this, but I will send that if you just send your email. Okay, let's expose some case of practice. Anyone who has been working on the Hero's Ways, it's just an invitation to clear ourselves from all the information now, the ones who are exposing or the ones who are listening now. We're going to practice the listening. We empty ourselves, step 0, going to our body and our 0 point, coming from the mind to our solar plexus, igniting the solar plexus, burning everything that may be making noise in ourselves, anything that is not us. We burn it with our inner sun. We breathe that fire inside our heart, expand our field on both sides. To encompass ourselves with an expanded field of awareness, and it crystallizes into a crystal ball where we can see more clearly everything that comes to us, all information that comes to us. Breathe in and make it stronger in your energetic body, that crystal ball around you, 6 feet around you, 2 meters. Breathe it in, and you are encompassed by the clarity sphere from the heart field, connecting both sides. What I say, what I hear. Feel in you. If you feel exposing, it corresponds to show your case, to bring out, to discover where you are, and if it can be useful for everybody in this call. Okay, when you are ready, or if you are willing, you can raise your hand and we hear you. Okay. Thank you for staging. Okay. You can raise your hand here or in the app. Okay. Natasha, here we go. Natasha, Assesment. There. We hear you, Natasha.
Hi.
Hi.
Uh-oh. Now I'm shy, sorry. I wasn't quite sure what we were doing then.
Excuse me, go again, please.
No, it's okay, I'm quiet now.
You wanted to expose, or it was accidentally the raise of hand?
Yeah, I think I just got confused. Sorry.
Okay. Okay. Have you seen the hero's map?
Yes, but a few weeks ago, not recently.
Okay. 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 Who feels sharing? This is you can just share, like, if you feel something that you manifested, some view or observation of your stage, like if you can describe whatever situation. Maybe remember that this expresses in all areas of our life. So whatever situation of your life or dynamic, give us the information of a stage, and then we can see the sphinx. If we can detect the sphinxes, or if you have detected the sphinxes, you can tell them, and if applied some energy movement according to the stage we are, and we can assess that on the hero's way. Yes, Tessa.
Yes, so the latest sphinx I've noticed is not in my, well, personal life, but I guess it is. It's the bigger picture. So the story that the mainstream media is painting right now for everybody, I'm seeing how they're using some of the techniques to change the figures and to create a false reality that doesn't exist based on some of the techniques that you described. Like, for example, they have numbers of, say, the coronavirus, and then they are expanding those. They're making them much bigger than they are. So they're kind of magnifying them in order to fit this narrative they are making, to then get people to believe a false narrative based on incorrect figures. So I have had a lot of clashing with other people who, this is like threatening their worldview. So like the outside edges, they can't go bigger because it's too much for them. So like my whole close family basically is in that category right now. So I've been trying to do, well, I've been doing lots of healing for the parts in me reflected in them, etc., but also from the hero's map perspective, looking at how to respond to the magnification of incorrect. So I was thinking this through. I was like, well, you wouldn't reflect it back, because then you're reflecting back magnification and you're just going to make a shit show. But maybe what you should do is like, well, what I've been doing is turn my gaze in a different direction. So I'm actually changing my my attention to something that is not the magnification. And as a result, it's not actually magnifying anymore in my reality, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yes, yes. I love that you bring up this case. It's matter on is talking on this, on the macro, and this is an excellent example of how the collective ego is working with what is our reality. And that's exactly the big test that we're having. This is the perfect test exposed and magnified for us to filter who is in initiative path or not, or a beginner. To begging, remember, the begging to get in, begging, asking permission to move, asking permission. And yes, what can you detect? You have been in some sessions of heroic assessment, Tessa, so which quadrant would you detect, and which sphinx?
Judge. So the main sphinx that I am facing and that I see reflected in other people in my reality is the judge. So I have to keep catching myself so that I recognize that sphinx, because it seems to creep out when I'm not concentrating. So that to me is like a subconscious one.
The judge is the judge is a role. The judge is a role of the ego. It's okay it's great to be aware that the ego has you in some point. That's great to see it. And just when I said, I gave the sign of where the stage is the quadrant of beginning, because people are beginning to think by themselves, beginning to think but if this is true or not, but the other is telling me if it's true or not, just beginning. So it's like, and some is like not even wanting to see it, because not just at the doorstep and not wanting even to get in. So it's like, that's the first quadrant. Unfortunately, is where humanity has been, with lack of initiation and a lot of beginners. So the quadrant that we are usually tempted, and ask myself in this situation, remember, the waiting until it's over, the quarantine is exactly wait inside, stay, don't do the first 6 things in there, clearly. The one that gets hot, that I will bring it up, is the outside combat. That's why we are fighting all each others. We are not solving it inside, fighting outside. So we have to be convincing others and fighting others outside. The outside combat is one sphinx that is filtering many of us. When we have to be putting everybody to wake up and don't use, we have to fight outside. No. We have to solve it inside and do the movement, because this quadrant is the quadrant that the energy is active, but very open to be directed. That's why it's like, yes, what do we have to do? And the people that in the scenario, or even if you are in your point of power, you can move this energy because it's active. They want to do. There's fear, emotions. They're saying there's a lot of emotions that want to be directed. So that's why the ones who knows how to direct the energy rule these times, because the energy is an act, just needs direction. So to make the crossing, what do you know about the map?
Yeah, so you'd need to make the crossing to the third quadrant. It was just interesting me because I spoke to my dad last night, and he believes kind of a different perspective to me, which is interesting to listen to. And a lot of his argument is these poor people, these people that don't have full physical health, that need all our protection, these poor people that can't quite live with their own health, and we need to protect them because, you know, just like you're a terrible person otherwise, and then they're playing the guilt game. So I was like, okay, well, that's still unhealthy because I can feel massive guilt tripping. And it's one thing to have compassion and hold space for somebody, but it's another thing to be carrying them with their issues they have not resolved in an energetic sense that are manifesting physically. Yeah, the savior complex, exactly. So I could see immediately what the problem was and exactly why they've got so many people, because they're catching them on guilt. And they're like, well, if you're an asshole, why the hell would you say that? So they're tripping people on guilt. But yeah, the crossing needs to be made to the third quadrant. So, but all I can remember from the third quadrant is like, that's where sometimes, yeah, so you don't fight someone there, do you? But people can downplay and belittle things. They can say, oh no, it doesn't mean anything. Oh no, it's nothing. Oh no, that person, it's not that bad, or these stats not that bad. So they can kind of belittle the problem away. That's what comes to mind when I think of the third. I know there's much more in it.
Wonderful, wonderful. This even I have to forget the sphinxes and the dynamic of how it wants to catch us. So yes, the quadrant. First, let's address the third sphinx, that is the justification. People that stay home, people that are believing, they justify why they are people. And to justify why they are good people, they need the other justification of what I'm doing, and the fortification by making the other being the bad. So we need that, like, to justify our contact with ones. The ego doesn't like the other like that. So the point of the third quadrant, that is when the other is, remember not to place yourself in the position of the other. When the other is doing the outside combat and trying to guilt trip you, to project guilt on you, you see it coming. The other is failing. The other is trying to combat, and in Aikido, we just need to not be there.
Yeah,
we just need to not, we cannot be attacked, because it's like, whatever you believe I am, you don't know where or who I am. You don't know me. It's like, so you're not there and not attacked. And first, that is like, if the other is blind, I don't go as blind as them. So it's like, no, Jan, that is wrong. There you feel the step on the stick, you know. If they're making you feel bad, the other is failing because it's trying to tell you what to do. And if you answer trying to tell that it's not what they have to do, that they're doing, you are in the third sphinx, that is being blind as the other. So that's happening a lot. Those sphinxes are happening a lot.
Yeah.
So to not that accordingly, because the ones who want to do the magical crossing between the possible and the necessary, the most subtle axis, we need to know what we need in each situation. So it's like, okay, today I had this conversation with him. I realized that he's very, very fanatic about our president, and I know our president is perverse. He's very fanatical, so it's like, I go in there because the problem of this quadrant, that is, the energy is going to be contrary. It's inverted.
Yeah.
So in this quadrant, when people are like against us, we just have to invert ourselves. And it's like, we see what we have in common.
Yeah.
Remember, similar cures the similar.
Yes.
So we look for a connecting point instead of what we are against. So we inverse. So when they believe that we are against them, we are reverting it. It's like, no, we are not against. We are with you. And then you can direct it, the energy.
Yes.
Like the people are doing this, the intelligence are doing this perfectly. It's like, one of the techniques is labeling you as whatever, conspiracy theorist or anti-vaccine, you know? They label you like that because it's anti, you are against. And you are conspiring. So it's like, so the doctor says, I'm not against vaccines. I'm not anti-vaccine. So it's like, they move that sphinx from the way. Just on the start. That's a good movement. I'm not against, I'm against vaccines that are skipping the security phases. That's me too. It's like, and you know what you need. You don't need just people to be against vaccines. You need to not have this one.
Mm.
Makes that they're doing. That's a great heroic movement. Okay, thank you, Tessa, for this case because it was awesome.
Good.
And just to the map, there are 2 quadrants more. I wanted to just put this case because it's very close of what we are talking. That many, when we see that the energy is very directed to a place, because one of the stages of energy and the focus can be directed to something, we have to stimulate it. So the stimulation is okay. Everybody is running for the vaccines. So, for example, presidents that cannot go against vaccines, they have to go towards the vaccine faster. So it's like, no, we are getting faster. So it's like you stimulate it. It's like, there's a race for the vaccines and suddenly everybody has it, you know? So you saturate what the focus was until it's like, okay, I have to choose one, which I'm going to choose. So then you can direct it because you saturated the energy until it's impossible to, so you do the crossing to the impossible, and then people have to stop. Wait, now I have to choose. So you make them stop. That's the other magical crossing. That's the other magical
clever.
crossing. And what happens to me yesterday, I was like inspired by this movie, and naturally came to me because people are very directed to the fear of death. People are very scared of death, and it's like this is coming up. And what naturally came to me was like, not even death will save you from this. I am trying to save myself from death. So how is that death will not save me? You know, it's like you invert that to generate a new possibility.
Yeah.
So,
that's a good one. I'm going to use that.
So people are trying to save themselves from death, but death won't save you from this. So it's like, makes the cognitive dissonance of, wait, what's worse than death, you know?
Yeah.
So you, and that's the magical crossings where we can play around with this and also sculpt our reality and embody the magician. Exactly, the art of war and peace. They are also the one who invented Aikido, wrote the book, The Art of Peace. So they are both at hand. The art of war, to understand the duality that we need in this 3rd and 4D, and the art of peace that is in between. So with this beautiful class, I close the record and see you in the framework classes and the exercise classes that I will be sending through the email. Thank you.
Cool, thank you.